And it's a big g'day to everybody out there. You are listening to another Step Outside podcast. Thank you for joining myself and our special guest again today. Part 2, Peter Johnson 2.0. Let's get him on the line right now. We'll dial him and hopefully he can pick us up. And away we go. It's ringing. That's a good sign.
Howdy, Birdie.
Hey, PJ. How are you, champion?
Yeah, good, mate.
Thanks for joining us, pal. I loved last week's episode of the podcast that we did. A lot of people had some really good comments about the anchoring up in particular, and also the electronics about the Lowrance that you run. I run Garmin on mine because it's foolproof for me, and also a lot of the other stuff we were talking about with the bag limits and size limits. So I said to everyone, you know what, we're going to redo a couple of things here and talk about Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C. So firstly, thank you for your time again today, mate.
That's all good. It's been a week already. Wow.
I know, time flies when you're, when you're fishing and working at the same time, trying to fit the two favourite pastimes into one day. Gee, I got some nice mangrove jacks this week, Pete, just quickly.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm envious of you guys up north. We get the odd one down here, same as we get the odd spangled emperor round around Long Reef. I haven't caught one for a couple of years, but I know they still get a few each year. And it's this time of year when all the hot water current comes down, and there's plenty of dolphin fish being caught out wide, and the smaller marlin, the 80 to 150 kilo blokes are out there in 30, 40 fathoms of water, and that's when we seem to get a few of these mangrove jack and spanglies hanging around some of the shallower reefs.
Mate, when you are going out fishing, obviously when you're talking about spanglies, you're talking about, the possibility of a jack or anything like that in that area. If you're going out to target specifically, say a Jewfish, a mulloway, they're found all around the country, no matter where you are. There's silver Jew, black Jew, we've got a whole different variety, Traglan Jews, all that sort of stuff. Mate, tell me, if that fish doesn't come on the bite, do you pull the anchor and leave, or do you have another plan up your sleeve? What's your general day consist of when you're fishing?
Well, normally, if I'm going out to fish for a mulloway, and let's break it up into two things. We'll talk offshore mulloway fishing, and we'll talk the river mulloway fishing. And we could even go a third step if you want to talk about beach mulloway. But normally it's, because we're allowed one fish over 70 here, I don't tend to go out and chase them as often now because, you launch your boat offshore and go and catch your one mulloway. So I'll make it a plan to get a tank of live bait and try and look for a tide change around that change of light period, like late afternoon or early morning. But having said that, a tide change at sea is a tide change. Most of the dew grounds I fish, 120 foot of water, or like 40 metres, 38 metres of water. Now, plan A for me is always I've got a tank full of live bait. You've been a sea devil, I've got a very generous live bait tank.
And you need it. I mean, mate, your live bait tank, you can keep a school of slimy mackerel alive, and that's just for people out there who know what slimy mackerel are like. You know what size bait tank you got on that sea devil. Yep. It's a big.
Yeah, 80 litres I hold in that tank.
It's a lot.
80 litres, or just under 76 litres. But it ensures a good oxygen supply in the water. It ensures that there's plenty of room for the fish. They don't crowd up on top of each other, and the bait tend to stay alive really well. So I get a tank full of live slimies or live yakkers, but I will also have some strip baits with me, some hawksbill squid, and I'll also have some leftover yakkers or slimies as burley.
Now, you talk about, sorry, just to keep on this bait part first, preference, slimies or yakkers? What's your first?
If the bait schools that are prevalent are yakkers, then I'll use yakkers. If the slimies are there, you use slimies. And it's funny, I've had it where they won't take a live bait. You've got to put a freshly dead one down, butterflied.
Yep.
And they jump all over it.
Wow.
Yeah, and and I've had other occasions there where you put 4 pillies, you thread them through the eye of a hook, and normally about an 8-0 or a 10-0, and you just put them down on a bunch of pillies. It looks like a glove, I guess, and they come up and smack that.
Yeah, they're not a fussy fish, but at times they can be a bit sooky.
When that trigger's on, they will snap at anything.
Correct.
The last episode we talked about a black nor'easter when the dew come on the bite, when the barometer drops.
Yep.
We had such a good session that we were gutting the fish on the boat to get what they'd eaten because we'd run out of bait.
Oh, wow.
So, we're putting half-chewed pike and half-chewed slimy on the hook to catch them.
I tell you, geez, pike are good.
That's my plan A.
Pike are good bait, aren't they?
The pencil pike or stinkies, whatever you want to call them. You put one of those on a 10-0 and the joy is, if it's not a Jew, it's going to be a good king.
Mate, I do a lot of work with Luke Poyle and the team at Tweed Bait. They need to sell pike because they won't keep up with the demand. Pike, fresh, frozen, whatever, are brilliant baits. I mean, live, you just can't go past. They are 20 out of 10. They are the best bait possible for kingies and jewies.
Yeah, and they're pretty easy to catch. You can catch them on bait jigs if they're about, or you can catch them on a 2-inch curly tail white grub, or 1 to 2 inch soft plastic white curly tail.
Correct, and you have fun in doing that on a little 1 to 3 kilo jewel outfit, or maybe a little Sedona reel, whatever. I mean, that sort of stuff there is pretty simple.
I got my SR60 Alvey there that I throw it out there, and a little 2 to 3 kilo rod that I build up, and they're great fun for that. But the problem is your pike in the same tank as slimies will. It's just the slime that comes off the pike tends to upset the slimies and they die easy. So you've got to keep them in a separate bucket. But normally they're straight on a hook anyway as you use them.
So you've got yourself a bunch of bait. What's your next level, mate, for moving out from there?
All right. So say I launch out a long reef. I'm going to go and find a spot that fishes in the right current. So when we talked last time we spoke, we talked about, you look at hills and gullies and valleys on the land. Well, imagine that's the seabed. So you've got to find, if the current's coming from the north, which is what we call a south current, because currents are opposite to wind. If the wind's coming from the west, it's westerly. If the current's going to the west, it's an east current. So if the current's coming from the north and going south, I'll look for one of the reefs that fishes in that current. And that generally means it's got a blunt end or a bit of a sharp rise at the northern end of the reef, and it's got a wall, and that'll break up the current, and the Jews tend to run along that wall, along the bottom. And then I'll anchor my boat up, and if it's 120 foot of water, I might sometimes have 250 to 300 foot of rope out, depending. I might have to fair lead over to get my placement right, because if I anchor up north of the reef and come back, the current might be getting a bit of a kick off that underwater mountain there. It can have a bit of an upwelling and push the boat wider, so I will fair lead in and push the boat closer to it, because if my baits are 30 foot out from that on the sand, I'm not going to get any action.
No.
You basically have to drop it in their way where they're running through. And Paul, you've seen it as well as a lot of other people have seen it on the seawall there at the Gold Coast. A lot of footage has been taken of the mulloway cruising along the seawall.
Correct.
That's what they do on the offshore reefs. They patrol that area of sand and rock at the bottom, and the bait fish are all hiding in the crevices, and that's what happens here. So if I'm not within 10 feet, I'll re-anchor the boat. That's how fussy I am. But that's because I'm fussy because I want to get the results. If I was lapsadaisical about it, I wouldn't have won the competitions and successfully commercially fished for a decade.
Mate, they're a funny little fish that can be very sensitive to noise as well. In particular, that if you drop down, if you're fishing a wreck, so a wreck that is from a boat that's overturned, sunk, fire, whatever, and that boat is surrounded by sand, it generally accumulates good schools of jewfish from time to time. And one thing I've noticed personally is that when I've scuba dived on those wrecks that are in 80 or 120 feet of water, whatever it might be, is I've gone down there, and I love to do this, and this is the thing that I do, whether it's for flathead or bream, whatever, is I jump in the water, look at the substructure, and understand where the fish are along that ledge. Like for the seaway example, you're just talking about the jewfish, is I'll look for where the flathead lie, and then I mark mentally where they are on these rocks, and then I go back with the lure and I catch them and let them go. But they stay in that area. But the jewfish, I've noticed, if someone comes out there with an anchor that has chain on it, and the rattle of the chain going under the water, you can hear it. Obviously, noise travels underwater quite quickly. Is that the jewfish just scatter? Mate, they're gone. Because they know that old mate beside them is going to be, hooked for some reason. They just know that things are going on, and they're out of there. So we do the stealth mode, and that is, particularly if it's a heavily fished area, is you put the clear tube over the chain, and then drop a sand anchor or a downforth further upstream, up the current, so northerly, southerly, so go on the northern side of the wreck, even go 100 metres up, and let out a lot of line all the way back, so the wreck is just on that 35-degree angle or 45-degree angle from the back of the boat. Burley up a bit, and then let that live bait back down, or a fillet bait back down to the wreck. Small bit of lead, and bang, you're on, because they haven't heard the noise. Shut your sounder down. Use your GPS. Use your chart plotter.
That's a great tip, because the pinging frequencies of the sander is enough to upset them, because they feel that pulse through there. The dews on the lateral line are very sensitive to the vibration and temperature changes in the water. And I found better catches with the sounder turned off.
If you put your head under the water, you'll hear the... I'll do this on the microphone, but you will hear that slight... And that noise is the sounder transmitting through the sonar.
Yep.
Down to the bottom and back, and it gives you that noise, and the fish feel it. So shut down your sounder, everyone. Even in shallow waters, if you know the area you're fishing, you should have marked it on your chart plotter. Pull your chart plotter in, zoom in to 20 or 30 or 40 feet. Okay, not 100 metres. Why are you fishing 100 metres on your chart plotter? Like, seriously, if you're drifting, I kind of get it, but if you're not drifting, 100 metres on a 9-inch screen is you can be out by 30 metres. You want to be on it, so get it right in and then pull in on it. Understand where that structure is in relation to your boat, and if you can nail it without having your sounder on. Well, one, you're doing pretty well.
Well,
two, you
nowadays
catch
people
fish.
have set themselves up with the 72-pound thrust electric trolling motors with spot lock.
Yep.
And it just holds them there. They don't have to drop the anchor over. I mean, like we used to put a bit of rope in between the links.
Yes.
All the way, and a 14-foot of chain. So you'd put a 16-foot length of rope there through the weave of the chain to stop the chink, chink, chink noise.
Yes.
People now have the advantage with these spot lock outboards, electric trolling motors, but they don't make the noise.
And that's true. And the bigger boats, I know the larger boats, I've got a Surtees coming. It's a 700 game fish, a fantastic boat with a 250 Yamaha on it. But so the Garmin unit on the front of that, you need a 72-inch leg, okay, to get off the bow into the water. But fortunately with the Surtees, it's a big leg, mate. Minn Kota make them. Few dramas with those, obviously, particularly with the self-deploy. You don't want them deploying when you're going flat out, and obviously they do become a bit of a boomerang, so you've got to be careful of that. But which means that they get sent back quite regularly to be fixed on the larger models. You've got to think, you're out in the ocean, okay? There are saltwater models for sure, but if you're out in the ocean, then clearly electrics, no matter what brand it is, and salt water just doesn't mix eventually. Okay, things could go wrong. But with the Garmin, they haven't made the longer leg yet. But fortunately with the Surtees, because they've got that hull that fills with water, that cavity underneath the hull to give you stability.
Technology,
correct, is that will pull the bow and the boat down enough for that standard, I think it's a 56 or maybe 58-inch leg of the electric engine to
as long
fit.
As you can keep the full diameter, the prop rotation underwater.
Correct.
Doing its job.
And you're not going to do it if it's 2 metre seas and 15 knot winds. You're going to have your bow's going to be up and down. So it comes down to the time you're doing it, and obviously battery weight. Do you put in 3 batteries? Do you go lithium? I know you're not sold on lithium. I am. I like lithium. I think they're great. Big shout out.
I'm not sold on it. I think it's early days yet, and I think it's like everything. The technology gradually gets better the more it's out there. So I'm just waiting.
Yeah, well, the guys from Green Marine Lithium, Stephen Watman, he's up here on the coast in Tambourine Mountain, actually. Mate, he's a smart man. Oh, my God, this guy, he could make a Tesla, with his eyes closed. He's very intelligent. A lot of people have got the Samsung phone battery saga that went on when, you know, everything was catching on fire, put into their heads of lithium batteries catch on fire. Yeah, some do if they're set up incorrectly, but do it correctly and you won't have a problem.
I believe as well.
What's that?
You need a specific charger to charge lithium batteries, I believe.
Yeah, probably do. I haven't got that far yet, but I'll talk to Stephen. But mate, look, we're digressing at the moment. I know that it's all good information, but your plan A, you've gone out, you've got a whole heap of baits, you've gone out to Long Reef, or you're going up the river to target them, you've got your strip mullet, you've got some good squid going on there as well, you've got some pike. So you are spreading it across the board because one bait they may bite on and another bait they may not. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Yeah, so you prepare for everything. Now, the plan is, like I said, I've got my boat anchored. I'm down, my bait's sitting within that 10-foot area off the bottom of the reef structure. The mulloway will run along those. And you'll get bites as the fish schools runs up and down in the current along those ledges. My plan B, I'll have a 10-foot alvey stick out there. So I've got a MT108 with a 6-inch alvey. I've got 20-pound Snyder line on it. I've got a 5/0 mustard hook on it. And I'll have a strip bait or a pilly out there with a sinker right on the hook just to match the current. And I'll float that down because the same ledges will produce good snapper.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my plan B. And if things go to plan, if the Jews are there, the snapper will often be there mid-water because I've been there fishing and had them nail my live baits.
Yep.
So I've had good snapper take my live pike or my live slimy down on the bottom fishing for Jew. And when I say on the bottom,
yep,
my mulloway rig is generally 60-pound leader of about a metre.
Yep.
An 8/0 hook and upwards, and a half-pound bean sinker. And that's then onto the 60-pound hand line, or if I'm using a rod and reel, I'll be using 50-pound braid and the same terminal rig. And I drop the sinker to the bottom, and then I pull it up 2.5 handfuls. So that means my bait can't get caught on the bottom.
What's a handful, mate? What's a handful?
Oh, well, you know, my arm span, so a metre and a bit.
Yep.
So my bait's fishing, swimming about a metre or a bit more off the bottom. Can't get caught up.
Right.
And then if I'm hand lining, that's in my springer cane. If it's in the rod's in the holder and sitting there. And then out the back of the boat, I've got my floater stick out there that's handling snapper, and I've got burley going directly below me in a burley bomb. And that's to keep the mulloway biting straight below the boat. And then I've got a small bits of burley going out for the snapper fishing. That's plan B. Now, some of the other things I'll carry in the boat will be small bobby corks or pencil torpedo float, you know, because if they're not biting on the offshore reefs, they might be biting around the bommies. So plan C is to go and throw those live baits under a torpedo float in the wash at the bommies.
Right.
And that opens up a whole new game then, because you can start getting big bonito, big salmon, your snapper there, and you'll still have kingies as a bycatch.
Are you using...
Kingies will run around those ledges that your mulloway are on, but they're often higher up.
Are you using the same rod and reel outfit as you would be out for a floater or anything like that on the reef?
Yeah, well, I won't. If I'm using the torpedo float, I won't be using the 60-pound handle, and I'll be using that 10-foot rod.
Yep.
But occasionally I'll go out and I'll specifically have a 6.5-inch alvey, and I've got a 9-foot rod which I use. I know it's an old FSU that I cut the butt down.
Yep. FSU Snyder glass?
Yeah, the old Snyder glass. Man, I've got so many of those, I could start a second-hand market with them. They do have good length. And I've got that cut down off the butt section to be 9 foot, and that's really great as a live bait rod on a 6.5-inch alvey. But, you know, you can use any of your 3/0 overheads, any of your 30-pound overheads to do that, or your lever drag, what's that reel that you're using? The Tylenol.
Oh, yeah, you got your Turnos, Shimano Turnos, and you've also got your Talikas.
For that.
Yeah, so your Talika...
I always carry a variety of different hooks in me. I don't carry a lot. When I say I don't carry a lot of hooks, I carry small packets of hooks rather than big packets of hooks. No, you're taking 50 hooks out when you're going in with wet hands.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get a box of rusty hooks.
Especially if chemically sharpened, because the tips will be the first that comes off.
Whatever I carry in my mustard hooks, I carry in the little, you buy a pack of 20 of them or so, or 6 of them.
Yep.
I stuff them in there, so that way I can tip them out onto my hand and I only get the one hook wet.
Yep.
Long gone are the days where you used to go and buy your waxed cardboard box of mustard hooks with
absolutely
hooks wrapped in paper.
Generally, your 540, your 542s. Your favourite hook, which is the 4202.
542s, the turned in eye. Believe it or not, I've still got a few 10-0 Edgar Seelys, Paul.
I don't even know what the hell that is. What's an Edgar Seely?
They're a long shank, small offset hook with a straight eye. The Edgar Seelys came from England, and I bought a box at a garage sale that they were just sitting in the rafters. And I said to the lady, I saw that blue box. I said, "Oh, is they for sale?" I said, "You can have those for $2." I said, "Oh, thanks very much."
Are they similar to the 34007 stainless steel long shank or the 9260? I don't think they were.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah.
Similar.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Except a slight offshore, but they're like the long shank is like 1.5 times the length of that.
Hey, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're not stainless though.
Yeah. So I'll carry a different range of hooks that I can top up when I get home for the next outing out of my bulk packs.
Right.
So I'll have 3 O's, 4 O's, 5 O's, 6 O's, 7 O's, 8 O's, and then, I'll have stainless steel hooks for live bait, and I'll have 7 double sixes. And depending on the time of the year, depending what you carry, because your species relevant.
Well, that's
true. I don't chase my mull away offshore in the winter months.
You don't?
So I'm normally out chasing my snapper and a few kings, and you're going to get your tailor and your salmon around the bommy. So then you might start carrying a few more gang hook rigs.
Mate,
if I'm in the river chasing my mull away,
yeah.
my plan B would be, I've got a tank full of live bait here. There's no mull away showing on the reef. I'll go and drift the channel drop-offs where my big flathead are. Because, some of the pictures that we swapped over the years, Paul, the size of the flathead we're talking about 10 and 15 pound flathead.
Mate, you recently...
The same size live bait that you're chasing for with your 7 kilo mullet.
Bloody oath they will. They love those big pike, etc. But, mate, you sent me a photo just recently. A lot of people talk about the metre flathead, so iconic metre flathead.
Yeah,
rarity.
Metre 08.
Mate,
yeah.
108. So that's and that is a crocodile of a fish. I'll tell you what, I've
she's
seen
a beautiful fish, and
big
it's
and released.
Beautiful to see her swim away.
Yeah. That's what it's about. I mean, I know the Flathead Classic, inaugural Flathead Classic, which I'm stoked to say at this stage is on the Gold Coast in September, October this year through the Gold Coast Sport Fishing Club. So that's a fantastic competition to be fishing. It's on again, of course, unless something else comes up through this pandemic. It's running wild around the world at the moment, so we'll keep a close eye on that. But at this stage, it is on. But mate, so you plan B, you've targeted the Jewies in the rivers or the Hawkesbury. That nothing's happening, so you've gone for the Flathead. Using the same bait, same outfit, same rod, same reel, 10 foot, 9 foot?
I'll come down in size because you're not going to get blistering, head-shaking runs off big flathead do put up a good account, don't get me wrong, but I don't need my 9 foot rod,
Okay.
So I might come down to my 4,000 size reel, my SR200 Aldi egg beater, and I'll sit there and I'll use my 7 foot rod, 30 pound line with a 30 or 40 pound fluorocarbon leader, and that Oceania leader, that's by far the best fluorocarbon leader I've ever used. And then I'll put in there and I'll put my live baits down, but I rig them up differently, Paul.
How do you rig it?
What I do is I put the hook in just above their lateral line on the side, behind their pectoral fin. Sorry, I put it and then push it down the back and turn it around.
So it's across. Is it out of the top of the fish or is it out the side of the fish?
No, it's out the side of the fish.
Ah, so you're just pinching the skin.
Yeah, just going under the skin, and you're not going into the cavity. And what happens? You'll drift with him, and you're pulling his nose into the current.
Ah, right.
Okay. But you're pulling. If you're drifting, and a classic place to do this is along the wall at Southwest Rocks,
right,
just out from the junction of the sand and the rock, where you get both your mull away and your big flathead. And what happens is the hook in the side tends to make the bait fish a bit uneven, so he always tries to fight the weight of the hook to stay upright.
Yep, attracting the bigger fish.
Giving off a bit of wounded action.
Yep.
And when the fish comes from behind to grab him, because the hook point's facing forward towards the nose of the fish, as he comes back, that point's going to grab in the mouth of the fish.
It's a very good point. And speaking of points, is always make sure that you have a sticky hook. And people out there might be saying, "What the hell's a sticky hook?" Well, it means that if you touch the tip of the hook and it sticks to your finger, it's because it's damn sharp.
Yeah,
you know, and if you have, people used to put, powder into their tackle boxes to obviously back in those days, or even cork line the bottom of their tackle boxes to eliminate any saltwater content getting in or keep it dry. But you will find if you touch your hooks, like you were saying before there, Pete, is even the drop of salt water on the tip of a sticky hook will take that stickiness off it. It'll break it down. The hook will still feel sharp to you. You'll be able to pick it up and you'll put it on your finger. You'll go, "Oh, yeah, it's pretty sharp. I'll tie that one on." But if it's not sticky, you'll lose your fish.
What I'm about to say before, and I know you get a giggle out of it, but it's so true. I look at fishing as a mathematical equation, and when I do my talks at the boat show and fishing clubs, people say, "What are you saying?" It's all about cost, mate. It's all about dollars and cents. This is what I mean. You've got a 5 to 10 cent hook on the end of your line.
Yep.
It's attached to your $700 rod and reel outfit that you've got. It's in your $55,000 boat with $3,000 worth of electronics in it, and you're towing it with your $62,000 four-wheel drive. You've spent $22 in tolls to get there, okay? Yeah. And it's not the car, the boat, the sound of the catching the fish. It's the 10-cent hook at the end of the line that does the damage, right? So if you're not going to pay attention to that 10-cent hook,
you're a bloody idiot.
And go and play golf.
And that's right. People go to the store and they're sort of sitting back thinking to myself, "Oh my God, this pack of 10 hooks is $8. Wow." Reality is that's cheap. It's cheap when you want to get your fish back, because all the length that you've just gone to, it comes down to the end of it. That little packet of 10 hooks for $8, chemically sharpened, triple X, they're super strong, but lightweight. That's what's going to hold onto the fish. That's the pointy end of the business.
And not only that, as kids, we grew up with granddads and dads and uncles that used to say, "Cover your hook, cover your hook, cover your hook." In reality, that was bad advice, because if the point of the hook's covered, it's got to drive through whatever your bait is before it gets into the fish's mouth, and that's enough for him to spit it out.
Oh, too right. I did some jack fishing recently. We went on this fishing off the bank, right? We caught 6 mangrove jacks in 1 hour off the bank. Unbelievable. This is down in northern New South Wales. And we let them all go. It was cool. I had a hook that was not sticky because I got absolutely bricked by another fish because we lost endless amounts using live herring. And I had another hook that was not sticky, and I thought, "Oh, it's sharp," and I'm feeling it, and it was sharp, and the fish were on the bite. In the heat of the action there, Pete, I tied this bloody hook on, and bang, I got the hit, and I let him run, and I sunk the hook, didn't sink it. I think, bugger, pulled it in, put another herring on. 3 times before this moron on this end of the microphone decided to go, "No, I need to cut this hook off." So I lost 3 fish, and I got rid of the hook, put a sticky hook on, and I got my jack up. So it just goes to show that pointy end of the business, it's got to be complete, because if it's not, you're wasting your time, no matter what fish it is, freshwater, saltwater, game fishing in particular.
Yeah, no, it's the connection between you and the fish. So you've got to make sure paramount importance goes in how you present that hook to the target fish.
Yeah.
And that doesn't matter if it's plan A, plan B, or plan C. Ultimate rule is to get that fish's mouth penetrated by that hook, and then everything else comes into play.
When
the quality of your rod and reel, or how you use your handle on it, but get that hook into the fish's mouth. It's the aim of the game. Next step, get it in the boat.
And that's exactly right. And gaffing is one of those things, or landing net. Gaffing, you've got to practice your gaff, okay, to start with. And always don't swipe at the fish by going above the fish, out, and then pulling back. Always go underneath and then lift up. So when you've got the motion of the lifting up, you should be able to get that fish straight back into the boat. Make sure you get a headshot. Obviously, sometimes it's hard not to get that headshot because the fish could be a different angle, but get it into the boat, but try not to wreck through the body flesh. But even the landing net, same deal. Don't swipe over the fish like you're catching a butterfly.
Lead the fish to the net.
Correct.
And head him into the net, and then and lift and scoop at the same time with the net. With the gaff, I always like to just reach over the fish.
Yep.
And lift and pull towards me and get him. You know.
Yeah, you remember that?
I've seen you on the
you remember
you
remember that famous gaff shot?
Pretty good gaff shot because you just know the person's just waiting for the right time, and it's just one motion. He's reached over, you strike, and you keep lifting into the boat, all in one action.
I remember that time we went mackerel fishing out of Wooleye there, Pete, and you caught that fantastic spotty mackerel for some reason off Wooleye and Evans Head and Iluka. And Yamba, the spotty mackerel down there are big. They're sort of 8-9 kilo. They look like a small bar mackerel or spotty.
Yeah, the average around the mill's about 4.5.
Yeah, some of those real big ones that come in are quite chunky. And we don't get the big ones like that up on the Gold Coast or southeast Queensland.
Okay.
No, we get them 3 or 4 kilos. Yeah, 5 kilos at times. But I've been out off Woody Head in Iluka and caught them upwards of around 8-9 kilos. They are big spotties. They look like a Spaniard.
And they give a really good account of themselves. You think you're on a bigger Spaniard.
Super hard. And you know, we're trolling around pink skirts doing 40 miles an hour. Everyone's doing the same, you know, oval turn around this bommy. You do that up on the Gold Coast or anything like that, and they won't touch them. You know, you got to put a little squid on a little pilchard underneath them and go in gear, out of gear, super slow, with the net lead under the first hook. Talking gibberish to everyone, I'm probably. But that shot where we were filming for Step Outside, and we were with Pete on his boat, everybody, and he caught this amazing spotty mackerel. It was a beautiful fish. Came up beside the boat. As it went past, I grabbed his gaff, and he's got the perfect size head on the gaff because he knows what he's doing. And I've gaffed it in the head and given it straight to Pete. And when I gaffed it, I've got it through the bloodline in its gills. So literally, it is just pumping out. So the time I took the gaff out, Pete's held the fish. I've turned around and put the gaff in the side gunwale. I've turned around. Pete's blue shirt is now red, and all I can see is the camera looking at Pete because the cameraman knows just stay on the fish. Okay, don't follow me. Stay on the fish.
Tell a story. Tell it right, Bertie. Okay, because we correct. Everything's fine. You've gaffed the fish. You've pulled it up.
Yeah.
You've got it like that, and your rod went off, and that's when you said, "Here you go," and you've turned it, and it's just splurted blood all over me while you're busy fighting the fish. That's the truth. Because mackerel was big.
Oh God! I didn't want to say I caught a fish. It's like, you know, you're the man of the moment. It's your fish. Forget about me catching one. I don't catch many. It's fine.
No, it's team effort.
Team effort.
I'm sitting there looking my grubbiest best. Step outside. Pete's, blood all over that shirt.
Pete's debut on national television with a bloody shirt, and then the next episode we went back into the river there at Wooleye catching bream. Pete was using his famous hand line. I was using the Shimano little 2500 Sedona on a little lightweight 3 to 5 kilo Sedona 2-piece spin stick, right? And Pete turns up. He didn't have his blue beautiful shirt on that he had from Shimano. He's got his trucky singlet on, right? He's embarrassed as all shit, right? He's sitting there. Sitting there in the boat.
I probably look like some homeless dude living under a bridge.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with it. Look, you know, mate, if you're living under a bridge, make sure it's good jack fishing because there's a lot of jacks there. But, mate, the thing is, mate, that was the goal of the moment. I loved it, and so did a lot of our viewers. So we'll leave it at that, mate. There's so much more to talk to you about. I mean, you know, we've bumped over half an hour. Someone's probably driven to somewhere, or they're working out in their gym listening to our podcast. You know, we could talk for days. There's so many topics you and I rattle on about, and some of those topics that we do want to cover are marine parks, are about white pointers because of the number of attacks we're getting. Why are we seeing more attacks? Why are we seeing more sharks? Is it because they're protected species? Is it because there's a lot more whales moving up the coast, protected species? Are we going to see more attacks throughout the year at different times when they're moving? Also, I want to talk to you about Obviously, the different gear that we run, whether you're running a 1 to 3 kilo or 3 to 5 kilo. Are you using different sinkers for different currents? Are you targeting different species, different time of the year, obviously with different techniques? That will cover more down the track on the Step Outside podcast. PJ, thanks for your time again, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Bertie. Always happy to help.
Mate, the crowd's going wild behind us there as they clap away, and of course, even that with just some of the way you talk about things, you're breaking it down there, Pete, for people to understand, which is what it's all about. Because a lot of people go out there blind and they're a little bit hesitant to ask the simple questions. Because sometimes, as a bloke or even a chick, you could be a little bit embarrassed to ask those simple questions.
You're dead right. Because, Paul, you and I both know, having worked boat shows, you know, you come down to Sydney and you also do the Sanctuary Cove boat show. We do our stage demonstrations, we'll ask questions and we'll get prizes out, yeah?
Yeah.
But when you step off stage, when people get a chance to one-on-one with you, that's when the questions are coming out. And as I say, there's no such thing as a dumb question, because if you don't know, you don't know.
No.
And it's like when you're a young fella and you go to the school dance, the pretty girls are sitting up against the wall. If you don't ask the question, the answer's always going to be no. She's not going to dance with you. Go up and ask the question. Okay, and that's what I encourage people to do. Come and ask. Fishing's been great to me. I've made it my livelihood.
Yeah.
You're making it your livelihood now with the program and the podcast and all your sponsorships.
Yeah.
I'm happy to give back what I've gotten out of it, because I just want people to sit there and enjoy what we do.
Yeah, mate, I totally agree with you. Never be afraid to ask the question, because there is no silly question out there. PJ, we'll talk to you next week then, buddy, and everyone else, thanks for listening to another Step Outside podcast. Take it easy. Step Outside returns, of course, mid-March on the 7Mate platform, and if you want to get any of your tackle that you need that we are talking about, become an Anaconda adventurer today, and of course with that you'll get a massive saving in all the deals that they offer at all Anaconda stores around this magnificent country of ours. Thanks again, Pete.
See you, Paul.
Good on you, mate.
Bye.
Yeah, there you have it. That was another Step Outside podcast. I hope you have a great week, whatever you're doing. Wet a line, chill out. Take it easy, everybody. Oh, yeah, and if you're in Queensland, I'll see you on 7 News with all the weather. See ya.